Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today is part of a new project that's aptly titled Iconic because it features some of the most iconic names in rock. Names like Michael Sweet, Joel Hoekstra, Tommy Aldridge, and Marco Mendoza. You probably know my guest best from his band Inglorious or his time with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. But Iconic is about to release their debut record called Second Skin on June 17th. Please welcome Nathan James. Welcome.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for talking to me.
My pleasure. And Frontiers Records is known for kind of assembling these incredible groups of talent around a centerpiece. And it seems for Iconic that you were sort of the linchpin that the band was built around. How did their company first come to you with the idea of using just these amazing players around your voice?
Well, at first, it was Serafino from Frontiers who basically said he wanted to build a project around myself. And then with Michael Sweet. Sorry, that's my dog snoring. I don't know if you heard that. Be quiet, please. So he said, look, I want to build this band around yourself and Michael Sweet. And then he said Joel would be a great fit. And I obviously agreed. I'm going to have to move the dog. I'm so sorry. We're not going to...
No problem.
You can't be doing that. You've been so quiet all day. Ready? Come on. Let's go away. Let's go to bed. Sorry. So loud.
That was a first in an interview. I got
Yeah. I'm sorry. French bulldogs are loud snorers. So, and then what happened was, after Michael Sweet and Joel were kind of involved, Serafina said, who would you like to be in the band? And I said, well, it'd be amazing to have Marco Mendoza. At the time, he just finished with the Dead Daisies. And I toured with the Dead Daisies in my own band, Inglorious, so it kind of would be a great fit. And then they came back to me and said, okay, cool, we've got Marco Mendoza and we've got Tommy Aldridge. And I couldn't believe it. I honestly, it took me a few days to kind of process that he'd said yes. Like, what a wild... If I were to pick a band, it would be those guys, you know? So it's kind of... That is madness to me.
And like I said, you had the relationship with Joel through your time in TSO, but toured with Marco. But have you ever worked with any of these guys, or is it just, like as you just said, if I could put a great band together, these would be my dream guys?
Yeah, well, it kind of was all Serafino's doing. Like, it's got nothing really to do with me. I'm describing this as kind of like his toy. Do you know what I mean? Like his baby. Like it's very much his doing. I met Marco on the Daisies tour, toured with them a couple of times, and then I met Tommy Aldridge once backstage at a Whitesnake show when I was like 24, probably very drunk. Had a picture with him. He was a super nice guy, very, very sweet guy. So I've never worked with him, just met him. And then with Michael, I actually met him on the Monsters of Rock cruise. Okay. And on that cruise, he did the most amazing thing. He leant over the balcony while I was doing a Q&A with Don Jameson. And he said, in front of everyone, he pointed down and said, that's the best singer on the whole ship.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's crazy that he's just said that.
It's quite a compliment coming from him.
Yeah, it's a huge compliment. And what an amazing guy. So yeah, I got to hang out with him on the cruise, and then I went and saw Stryper when I was over in Buenos Aires a couple of years ago, and just obsessed with him. I've always been obsessed with his voice. It's such an incredibly high, powerful voice. And also as a guitar player, which I think is really cool about this band, is that he's really getting to just focus on that side of things. And guitar was his first thing, right? He said it many times that he considers himself a guitarist before a singer. Which I just think is amazing that you could be so great at two things, like that's just obnoxious, really.
Well, and I always think that he is just so underrated as a guitar player because he's such a great singer. You mentioned the Daisies. It's sort of like Glenn Hughes being underrated as a bass player because he's such a great singer.
Yeah.
Now, for you, You handle the majority of vocals on the record, but Michael does a lot of interplay with you. What was it like kind of blending your voice, I mean, for lack of a better word, with such an iconic voice like Michael's?
We didn't actually think of it like that. We kind of thought of it as, I think we just individually wanted to do the best we can and then hope that that would be what was best for the song, which is what we did. So whenever we went into the studio, he gave 100%, I gave 100%, and then it just came together and it worked. I'm so thrilled that it did. But yeah, we didn't hold back and we didn't kind of like think. I think it wasn't a competition. You know, there's no competition about it. It was very much a respect and an understanding that what the other one was going to do was going to be what's right for the song.
And now you mentioned going into the studio. Were you guys able to be together as a band, or was everybody recording separately?
Everyone recorded separately, which I'm so I'm gonna have to get that dog. Sorry. Ozzy, what is wrong? What? You're being very strange today. You don't make a sound. He wanted the sun.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what he's doing. I put him in a cold room when he actually wanted to do some sunbathing. So that's what he's doing.
That's all he wants.
That's all he wants. No snoring. You're ruining it. Oh, so sorry about that.
It's okay. Yeah. So again, so everybody was recording separately and kind of sending it all in.
But that's kind of normal now, right? That is the normal way of doing it. So regardless, it would have been done that way. And it kind of took the pressure off a bit, like getting to do it in your own time. I know Joel recorded most of his parts at home, so it gives you more time. It's a relaxing experience. You're not worrying. I would have been terrified singing any of these parts in the studio in front of Michael, you know. So kind of cool that we just got to deliver everything individually, and then Alessandro glued it all together and made it work for all of us, which is just an incredible talent.
One of the things that I really love about the record is that Michael and Joel handle the majority of the songwriting. You contribute, Alessandro contributes, but a lot of times with these Frontiers projects, an outside writer like Alessandro or Aldo Lenoble, one of those guys, kind of creates the music and delivers it to the band. Yeah. Do you think that writing it in-house with the band being involved makes this a stronger record?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I think it's why have all these incredible writers in the band and not have them write? It also makes us care more about the project. You know, it's less of a project. Yeah, it's something that we're fully invested in, and that we believe in. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to do it that way. And all of these guys have written such great songs before. You know, Joel's written some incredible music. Michael has a history of writing great stuff. So it did make a lot of sense to have us write. I'm just honoured that two of the songs that I co-wrote have made the album, and one of them even got picked as a single by the record label. So that's super. From my point of view, as a fledgling writer, it's quite an honour to be able to see my name on the back of this disc with those guys, you know.
The press that's been coming out for the record says that, you know, the idea for the band was a style kind of similar to what Whitesnake is known for. And, you know, with Joel and Tommy and Marco, you guys have that strong Whitesnake pedigree. But for yourself, you know, kind of going into it with an idea like that, where does David Coverdale sort of fit in your influences and how you've, you know, patterned your singing and your voice?
I'm hugely influenced by him. That's safe to say. I don't think I particularly sound like him. I don't think I'm ever trying to do an impression of him, which some people do, and is fine. He's one of the greatest singers of all time. If you were going to impersonate anyone, it should be him. But I was very conscious on this about not sounding too much like him. or falling into the trap of sounding like him, which is very easy to do. So there might be a couple of moments on there. I know there's a couple of ad-libs on there where I'm very, all right. But it just happens, right? It's just a natural... When they're playing a bluesy riff, you want to go, all right. You do feel that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of conscious about not doing an impression, but also he's one of my biggest inspirations. So the last song, Enough of Your Love, when I was writing the lyrics and the melody, I was thinking, what would David do? Because it's that bluesy Whitesnake shuffle. Do you know what I mean? It's that exact same feel that you would have heard on a 70s Whitesnake album. And I remember thinking, oh, it's got in my life, it's got to have that same, oh yeah, it's got to be in that vein because it's the blues, and he sings the blues.
Well, that's one thing, being a fan of yours and the stuff you've done with Inglorious, and really kind of centering in on the last record, the covers record, and this. One thing I've always liked about your voice is that it's your voice. Even when you're doing a cover or when you're doing something like this, it's kind of in the style of somebody else. There's no imitation. There's no, well, he's trying to do this. It's you. And I think that really comes across strongly on this record.
That's a huge compliment because it's something I'm very conscious of. I think there's quite a few people out there who sound so much like someone else before, which there is nothing wrong with. Like, there is nothing wrong with. But I'm not trying to be unique. I'm not trying. It's not like I'm actively going, I have to be my own thing. It does just happen. I do sing that way. And my most important thing as a singer is about having versatility. So being able to do all those things. When it gets to a ballad on the album, I want to have a sweet palette to play with. I want to be able to bring the listener in rather than it being the same the whole way through. I want dynamic. I want the technical, to keep my technical ability so it's interesting for the listener.
Now, looking through this record, if you had to pick one track on the record where you're like, this is the five of us together, this is what we do, this is who Iconic is, what song would you go with?
I'd pick track 3, which is Second Skin.
That's if I have my notes here, that was the song I was going to say.
No way. It's heavy riffs. It's big vocals. It's me and Michael splitting.
Yes.
It's dual guitars. It's all of that stuff. And it's hard to pick like a song like that because it's a very meandering album. And there is highs and there is lows and there's soft moments and there's really metal moments and there's really melodic moments. So it kind of, to me, it's what I would consider to be a perfect structured album. It's like the structure of the album is fantastic. There's something on there for everyone, and you can listen from the beginning to the end and not feel like you've heard the same thing twice, which is very hard to come by now.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's something I talk about a lot with artists when I do interviews, is sort of that lost art of tracking an album. Yeah. Because we're in such a world where it's all singles and downloads and YouTube videos, just that art of putting it together, taking your listener on a journey that doesn't get repetitive and boring. And I think a track like Second Skin, even though it's a little toward the beginning of the record, really sets up what's going to come after it, because all of those different feels are kind of in the song.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's epic. It's got the kind of epicness of like a Forevermore Whitesnake track. Do you know what I mean? It's got like that. It sounds big. It sounds really big, and it sounds like 5 dudes that know 6 with Alessandro that know what they're doing and are very comfortable doing it. And that's something I'm very proud of. I can't wait for people to hear that when it comes out. Yeah.
And now you've been a pretty busy guy through the pandemic and all around, in 2021, Inglorious put out the 2 records, We Will Ride and the covers record Heroin that we had mentioned before. What's going on with that band now? What's next up for that?
We're keeping busy. we just started writing the next record, and we are about to announce a UK tour for later on this year. Obviously, we want to travel more places and get out there, but it's still so tough with the pandemic. The logistics just aren't there yet to make it work. So hopefully next year we do a bit more traveling. But yeah, festival season this summer, doing quite a lot of festivals here in the UK. Then we head out on tour, then release an album. We're looking at doing an acoustic album as well. So just trying to keep busy.
And when it comes to Iconic, one of the knock that we see a lot of times on the bands like this is that you put out this great record, you have a couple great videos, and then that's it. There's no touring, there's seldom a follow-up. Do you see this as something that all of you guys would like to go back to in between your main projects as time goes on, or was it just, well, let's see what we got and put it out there once?
I have already signed the option for a second album. So Frontiers, if Frontiers say we want a second album, I have to do it. I've signed to do it. So I'm keen to do it. I'm keen to get out there and do it live. That would be amazing. But it's scheduling, right? 2 guys are on tour with Whitesnake on their final tour. Michael's on tour with Stryper right now. Marco's on tour in Europe with his own thing. So, and I've got my band. So it is tricky. Logistics, again, very tricky to put together. But the best way that I can see it happening is if the album is a success, right? So the album has to sell in order for the label to go, oh, well, maybe it's worth us doing a tour or doing a date or headlining the Frontiers Fest or doing the Monsters of Rock cruise or whatever it may be. That maybe that live element to this amazing band would be the success of this album. It has to sell units, otherwise it won't tour.
Well, and like I said, I love the record. A lot of times when you put together this collection of talent, it's hit or miss. Sometimes it fires on all cylinders. Sometimes it doesn't gel. I think this one works perfectly. It's a great record, and I'm hoping you get those sales and that support you need so that we can keep this band going and hopefully get to see you play live one of these days.
Absolutely. It would be amazing. It'd be so much fun to pick a set list because obviously we've only got 11 songs of our own, so we'd have to pick from people's back catalogs and previous resumes, which would be just so much fun, I think, the live element to see Michael Sweet and me sing a Whitesnake song or me sing a Stryper song or whatever it may be would be really cool.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Nathan James. The band is called Iconic. The record is Second Skin. It's out everywhere on June 17th. Highly recommend it. Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time. Best of luck with the record. And hopefully we'll catch you soon on whether it's this or Inglorious or whatever the next project holds for you.
Thank you very much, buddy. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.